move on to season 4, because the last sort of like mini movie, I call them, all the opening credit sequences in Breaking Bad, which are amazing because some shows do previously on, and you can kind of tell by the clips they're going to use where they're going to go with that week. They do it very sort of artfully here in terms of like they give you a thematic idea in which the episode is going to play out. And the final one shows Walt and Skyler as they're about to buy the house that they will eventually move into. And what Walt's doing, Skyler loves it, she wants to buy it, and from the very moment he sees the house, Walt is not content with that house. He says, this is 3 bedrooms, we wanted 5. This is a man who, from a very long time ago, well before cancer, had these ambitions that were latent that potentially this cancer just brought out. So what I want to know, if your take, are we seeing, a good man turning bad? Are we seeing someone secretly always evil getting the chance to show his true colors? And third question on top of that, which of these are we supposed to sort of take away? Is that the applicability? Is that Walt? Is that there but for the grace of God go I? Or I am already there and this show is showing me what my potentiality already is?
I think the relatability factor of it is, and I think that the show is pretty good at how it handles this topic, because if we were beat over the head with the idea of, boy, people tell lies to themselves and each other, and that's bad. I think it's much more of a nuanced take in terms of we all tell white lies or black, dark lies or whatever you want to call it, serious lies to ourselves and to other people as we deem it necessary. What are the moral justifications that we use to police ourselves in that arena, or do we police ourselves at all? And I think with Walt, what's interesting to me, it is almost a nature-nurture argument with Walt. I guess it goes back to the beginning of any kind of philosophy or religion or whatever. Is it circumstances that have turned him bad? Is it life that dealt him a bad hand and he's just going to fight his way out of it, in the dirtiest way he knows how? Or was that guy always there? I think that guy was always there. And I think he likes it. I think what he could never, ever admit to himself. Here's one thing I think Vince Gilligan believes, and I'm just going to go down this road, even though I have no basis for this. And I talked to him once at a party for 10 minutes and didn't record it. I meant to write up the notes, but I never did because it was at TCA and I hadn't slept in 12 days. I've read enough interviews with him, and but I certainly don't want to say this. I know this for a fact. I'm just saying my supposition is Vince Gilligan thinks that we all tell lies to ourselves, but we should be morally clear with ourselves about what it is we're doing. And Walter's sin is not necessarily that he lies, he cheats, he steals, is that he lies to himself about what it is that he's doing. Walter's sin, I think, and this is what I think that maybe Vince Gilligan is putting out there, this is again my supposition, he looks at Walter with this distanced gaze, with this distanced evaluation. I don't want to call it judgment, because he thinks that Walt's sin is thinking he's a good person. I mean, basically what you're seeing in the course of the show is a man who is desperate to retain his sense of himself as, suburban dad, driving the not great car, taking care of his family. Everything in his existence is geared toward this desperate definition of himself as a good person. And he increasingly, season after season, he is faced with the evidence that he is not a good person and that he chooses expediency every single time. And how many times did we hear Tony Soprano say, oh, I just have to look out for my family, or, what about the kids, and we have to keep them safe, and we have to do this to keep the family safe, this and that. I think basically that's a lot of hoo-ha. I don't think Walt chooses his path. And I think that's the vision of Breaking Bad. That's that unrelenting camera eye. That what that camera is unrelentingly gazing on is the vision of someone he's picking this. He's chosen this. Every step of this, he's chosen this. And I think, if you want to get really deep and heavy about it, it's all about free will. I mean, don't you think? Because Walter has the freedom to walk away from all of this. Of course, he would be murdered or sent to prison within like weeks, or within an hour, he would be in jail. And he would go to jail if he knew it was good for him and ask for Supermax cell by himself. But this is a choice that Walt has made, and Walt's sin is that he chooses to believe he didn't have a choice.
Right, and one of the sort of moral components to all of this is that once you choose your family, it's at the expense of everyone else's family, and the collateral damage that this man has wrought.
Exactly, that's a huge part of season 4, I think. Don't you think?
Absolutely, and we'll get to that. I think that's the sort of thing that everyone can justify. I'm doing this for my family, wouldn't you? Well, if everyone did it, then you get a worldview that Breaking Bad has. Whereas you can get so atomized as in terms of your worldview that if you're only looking out for yourself and the small circle around you, it's like Google Plus gone to hell. In that way. I'm looking out for my circle, and that's about it. I mean, once you do that, then you see what happens. Jesse gets close with somebody in AA, and then by looking out for his own family, his surrogate father Walter. Well, that woman's family suffers because of that. Every
decision that Walt makes ripples outward in a way that affects somebody else negatively, and I think again, his foundational sin is that lie that he's doing it for his family.
Yep.
I actually don't believe that anymore, because if he really cared about his family, he would have taken duffel bags full of money, said go to some remote place, change your name, get new papers, take the kids, be far away from me forever, and I will go off into some remote valley and blow my brains out before somebody else that is one of my enemies gets to me.
Right.
Because that's the truly selfless choice. Walt, and I say this in my review, Walt is the cancer at the heart of everything. He did have cancer, and that's in remission, and Bryan Cranston looks like one of the healthiest human beings alive, which has kind of been the running joke of the series. But Walt is the cancer. His self-justification and his bad decisions ripple outward. And I think in a way they begin affecting how everyone else deals with reality as well, if they didn't already.
No, absolutely. And maybe that's a good enough point. I think we're going to throw our little, peg in the sand here and say we're going to start talking about season 4 here.
So we are not going to talk in any major way about major spoilers, but